What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're all doing well today. Welcome to Matley Basin, the home of the Great British Grand Prix in MXGP, and welcome to the first two-stroke video that I'm doing on the new beta 18.1 OEM bikes. Now, we are riding the practice version of Matley today, just because I have no idea what I'm doing with setups on these bikes just yet, so I'd rather ride a bit of a smoother track. And I can't lie, playing this race and live streaming it on Monday, I had a hell of a lot of fun. I'd done so much better than I expected to do. The racetrack's actually pretty brutal, but I really enjoyed it. Like I think he got the rough just right. I was running a completely stock Honda setup. I just changed the geometry a little bit, so I made the swing arm longer, and I think I changed the fault height by like 2. And the bike itself handled really well. I'm going to do a little bit of tinkering because now I've seen that the OEM manual has finally been released, which I'm excited for. So L suspension people like me can finally work on their suspension a bit, see what they can and can't improve. However, today's main topic of this video is going to be these new two-strokes. Now, I have not ridden all of them just yet. Last night I downloaded them maybe like 2 hours after they released, and last night I sat playing with a few of them. Some of them I kind of gelled with straight away. Others I found a little bit tricky. I think the sounds seem to be a bit of a hit and miss with people. The new sounds on the YZ, I think it's the YZ250 two-stroke, I think it actually sounds really nice. I didn't like it for the first lap or so, but then if you listen to it properly and you listen to the overrun stuff, I actually quite enjoyed it, but I suppose that's all personal preference really. However, I went through this. Now this is a TM144. Unfortunately, it is in the 250 class, so the MX1 two-strokes, so you wouldn't be able to ride this against the normal 125s, which it does make sense. You know, I can't be unhappy at that decision. I think it would be unfair to have that extra power. I think that might be the same reason why we've not got the 150 still, like the older 150 in there. I think they've removed it from the pack altogether, as it's, I think it's been, is it discontinued IRL? I swear I read that somewhere. But this is, I think this is basically the equivalent now. It's such a fast bike. I loaded up Arlington because I was doing a little bit of supercross testing to see how the 450s were working and suspension wise, and see how the front ends had changed and everything. Lots of testing on that. That's a topic for another video. But then I loaded up this TM144 on Arlington, and I hit all of the rhythm sections absolutely fine. This thing is an absolute little pocket rocket, and I'm quite lucky myself that I have had the chance to not I don't think it was a 144, I think it was a 125, but I've ridden a really old TM125 before, and I absolutely loved it. You know, it made my day. I was at the track with all the bikes you could imagine. You know, there was KTM 350, KTM 450. I had my Yam 250 4-stroke there, and then this old, like really old TM 125 is the bike that I kept going back to and riding over and over and over again, because they're just so much fun. Like every time, any track that you go to, if you hear a TM riding around, even without looking at it, you know it's a TM. They sound so distinct. They're so much louder than everything else, and they're just Italian stallions. That is just the bike, and I think they've done a pretty damn good job of it. Now, this is stock setup that I'm riding right now. If I was riding the race version of Matley, I would probably be struggling a little bit, because I think the suspensions do need a little bit of tweaking by us and getting our setups dialed and perfect, which I'm not against by any means. I was struggling a bunch on the 450s, mostly through whoop sections. Like the jumps and the turning all feel great. I think they've done a good job at improving the front ends. However, I just couldn't seem to get the whoops on Arlington right, and I went and tried some other tracks, and they seem to be fine, the tracks with the longer run-ins, but the tracks where the whoop section is straight out of a corner, like Arlington and like Oakland, I'd get halfway through the whoops, and then the bike would just kind of poo itself, basically, and not do what I want it to do. It wouldn't like skim them anymore. It would start missing whoops out, and there's been a lot of random number changing, and honestly, I think I just got lucky at the end. I was just spamming like settings left and right, and I've ended up on something that feels pretty good. So hopefully over these next few days before Daytona, lovely that we get Daytona next. Very excited for that. Always one of the big races of the year. I'm gonna see if I can put some hours in and try and get a little bit faster. And I feel really good on the 250 right now. If nobody's seen the short video that I put out yesterday, I've done a 49.7 something around Arlington on 250, which I think is pretty fast. There's plenty of room. It wasn't a perfect lap by any means, plenty of room to go faster than I did, but yeah, really happy with it. Feel actually feel comfortable on the game for the first time in a long time, which is quite weird. And I did want to say thank you whilst we're on the topic of racing Matterley and the MXGPs too, because we reached a peak viewership during Moto 1 of 627 people, I believe it was, which is really, really good. Like Supercross round 1 at Anaheim 1, we reached 800 something, so I know the GPs are a little bit less popular to watch, but it was great seeing that many people showing some support for me. Some people a little bit less supportive. A lot of people there just seem to want to watch me crash and burn, but there's a few very lovely people there, and thank you for letting me ride the 250 class as well. As you know, the 450s outdoors they're a little bit unpleasant. I've actually not dabbled outdoors on the new ones, so they could have been completely changed. They could be perfect outdoors now. They could be a lot more fun, but I guess I'm locked into the 250 season now, because spoilers, if you don't want spoilers, please go on the channel, click on the live stream section and go and watch those 2 motos. But spoilers right now, I did manage to get the overall with a 1st and 2nd place, and I think I've got a 9-point lead. I don't know who's in 2nd. I think it might be Matteo. I think he went 5-1, if that's not a 9-point difference, a 9-point swing. But yeah, everyone either had a really good first moto and a bad second moto, or a bad first moto and a good second moto, and I think I was the only person to stay kind of consistent. Now, I wasn't without my mistakes by any means. In the second moto, I crashed a whole bunch. The track did get pretty damn brutal, but it's good. Like Matterley, if anybody watches GPs, you know how like crazy rough and like deep and rutted Matterley gets. I think JV has done an excellent job, and I'm just happy that he's like on board with the MXGP team. Just we get so many rounds of quality tracks, and the fact that we get 2 tracks is even better, because we get this version that I'm playing on now, which is it's kind of like a practice/groomed version. So it's meant to be at the very, very start of the day when the riders go out and start setting their practice or quali times on a fairly like groomed/graded track, so it's quite flat. And then we've got the race version after that, which is a lot rougher, a lot of like pre-built ruts, so we're not just relying on the road, a bunch of rough too. And whatever changes he made between the pre-season race of Qatar to this racetrack, the track eroded so good. Like all of the, let's call them main lines, all of the lines that people were taking all throughout Moto 1, at the very end of Moto 2, they were still doable, but you probably found more success venturing elsewhere around the track. Some of them did get a little bit rough, and to be fair, the only issues I had with the track at any point was on the sections. It's usually like uphill, like off camber turns, which I think majority of it's really down to Poboso and MX bikes in general. I don't think there's much JV can do on that, to be honest, unless he wants to like distort the scaling and make it unrealistic scaling wise. But you can see on this TM, getting like tripling up that quad, no issue at all. I couldn't quad it on a 250. I frame it on a 450. I've done 1 lap on a 450 on this track. So to be clearing that, no issue at all, not stretching it. Very happy, man. Just goes to show how rapid this TM is, which I think is kind of a case for all of these TMs. These smaller engine ones turn a bit better, but I've noticed all the TMs, they are so quick in a straight line that it almost ends up being uncontrollable, because you'll roll on the throttle to come out of a corner and it'll just want to go straight. Like, it'll want to pick the front wheel up and just send you off the track. And I've tried tweaking a bunch of suspensions on the TM 450. I used the TM 530 a little bit as well, that got released in the MX free pack. That thing's an animal in a straight line. That's so quick. Yeah, these things they're definitely hard to handle. This one feels great. This is completely stock that I'm running right now. Again, I just upped the swing arm to 8 to give me a little bit more control, I'd say. It makes it less twitchy in the corners. The front wheel doesn't want to pick up quite as much, and that's the only change that I've needed to do to make the bike like quite handleable. I think the places that I've crashed around here is just me trying to go too fast. You know, I'm trying to absolutely rail some of these corners as if there's ruts there when there aren't anymore. But you can see, like, I'm really cranked over in this corner, like 5th gear, almost wide open, and the bike's just sticking to the ground, staying nice and true. Same here, quite a heavy braking zone, turn, get it going again. And I don't know if there was any bias in the in the bike making process. Like, I know Jesse, who is on the OEM team, who has a massive involvement with how these bikes ride and feel, he's a big TM fan. If there is bias in there, I really don't mind it, because I absolutely love TMs. I went through a stage, if you are a very long-term viewer of the channel, you'll know that back in 2021's Supercross season, when I was doing 250s, I went for a stage of running the TM, and I actually won a couple of races on it, like back to back, and I kind of started a little bit of a movement. There was a period of time where you'd go into public servers and all of a sudden there'd be so many people on TMs that had never ridden them before, and it just felt so fun. But I think there is a bit of a herd slash sheep mentality when it comes to this game, and as soon as someone fast wins on a certain bike, everyone kind of switches, and even if it's not a fast bike, people, you get the placebo thinking, oh yeah, this feels like really good. And the issue we have right now, not sure how it's going to be affected now the 450's all been updated. I'm sure people are going to do a bunch of testing over the next few days. Is obviously we've got the 450 class is blue, the 250 class is red with a sprinkle of blue. So not sure how it's going to change. I've seen a couple of people saying apparently the Yamaha 250 4-stroke is not as good as it was. Can't attest that myself. I don't ride it. I just run the Honda. But the Honda feels fine. I don't know if the Honda's had any changes. Honda feels great to me. I wasn't even the sheep there. I think everyone says that Cam started the Honda movement, but I know that when I was testing the bikes out when they very first released before this update on the pre-season aerial track, I was riding the Honda 450, and I was like, oh, I may as well just ride the Honda 250 as well, and I really liked it, and I've just not switched since. So great minds think alike, I guess. Me and old Kamsky, wrapping the red bike since day one. Love that. I did try last night the Honda 450 out after the update, and I just can't seem to get any of the bikes through the whoops consistently and comfortably. The Yamaha to me still feels pretty decent, but I've heard a few people saying that they're really enjoying the feel of the KTM now as well, so maybe we'll see a few more colours on the gate, which would always be nice. I know I'm not helping that cause by any mean after abandoning the Fantic and then riding the KTM for about a week and then giving up on that as well, but for me right now, comfortability is absolutely key to me in this game. I know that I have not got that raw speed, so anything that I can make up in consistency, I will gladly do so. To give you guys a little bit of an update in terms of how the championships are going for 450 Supercross, like the EU season, the European season, I am in 3rd place, I believe. I think I'm about 30 or so points off the lead. Hells has got a pretty commanding lead right now. His worst finish of the season is 2nd. He's either got 2nd or 1st every single race. I've had a few undesirable results in there. I think Skills is in 2nd, but he did drop a few points to me last round, so I'll have to double check on that, but I could even be within maybe like 5 points or so of 2nd place, which is a big dub. I didn't expect that to be the case at this point in the season. I thought them two would be long gone and I'd be left trailing behind. So 3rd place is, well, 3rd overall, sorry, I shouldn't say 3rd place, but top 3 is my goal. Whether that's 3rd, 2nd or 1st, I'll be a happy man. So I'm not limiting myself to 3rd, but that is the minimum that I would like, and we're achieving that. Lovely stuff. In 250s, I'm also in 3rd place. However, I'm only 5 points behind. I think so. Isaac is leading. I think Isaac is leading. I think Keegan is 2 points, I believe, behind him in 2nd, and then I'm only 5 points behind him in 3rd. So still all to play for in that championship. Actually a lot more competitive than I thought it would be. There's a lot of fast riders in that group, and especially if you get a bad start, it's so difficult to work your way up and through the pack, which was, I suppose, made evident by the Triple Crown Arlington when I went 9-2-1 and then Keegan went 1-1-11. It's like, you can tell which races we got good starts in and which ones we got bad starts in by a long ways. So obviously we've got Daytona next, which I'm excited for. I always like Daytona. Interesting to see how it rides, because we've got Stone Rider's custom track creation rather than like the actual one, because it's the same as last year's. But good news is some of you guys might remember, so Racer X, they do a little preview of each round before the real life event. So I got to do Anaheim 1 because it wasn't done on the aerial tracks, and you guys you saw my gameplay in there. A lot of people messaged me, just thought it was really cool. But Stone Rider's been doing them since. Obviously, they have to be done prior to the race, prior to IRL as well, so it would be an unfair advantage for me to have the tracks early to record the footage. So Stone Rider's been doing them, which is absolutely fine. I understand the reasoning behind it, there's no issue there. But they've reached out to me again to see if I want to do Daytona, because the real life Daytona, as you know, is the same as last year, so we technically already have the track in game. So yeah, I've played it on last year's track and done that, but yeah, in game we're going to be riding something different, so you might see my gameplay this week on Racer X. I'm not 100% sure, I've not heard back from him since I sent the footage over, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. I always like getting MX bikes out there. I like kind of advertising myself a little bit, getting my name out there. So hopefully he'll be a gem and link the YouTube channel a little bit, because as we know, at the start of each year, the revenue and the watch time and subscribers and everything does go down, but it slowly picks up as the year goes on. And I suppose the only other championship to update you on is the MXGP that we just done. But yeah, I mean, we've done one round. I'm doing 250s because they are so much more fun to ride. Like, it's unreal. You can actually put the bike where you want it without the front wheel kind of telling you otherwise. And I'm in first by, I think, 9 points, which is really good after one round. Really happy with that. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be able to do every round of the GPs, just with like other life commitments, but I will try and make as many excuses to stay at home on a Monday evening as possible and really just grind out the races and see how it goes. Who knows? In an ideal world, I'd be more than 50 points up, and I can afford to miss around, but I think that might be a little bit of wishful thinking. I did want to say I know JV watches my videos every now and then. I don't think he watches every single one, but I did compliment him in the live stream as well to say how pretty these tracks are that he's been producing. There was a period of time where I think people thought of JV tracks more as like pieces of art, it's just more aesthetically pleasing than rideable, but I think he's kind of thrown all of that stigma or opinion out the window, because these tracks both look amazing and they ride really, really well as well. If you're interested in getting them, they are paid tracks. However, you do get two for the price of one. Essentially, it's $2 per track, or it's $24, I think, for the season pass, which is what I've gone for. And how many rounds are there this year? Is there like 17 or so rounds? Something crazy. There's a lot of races, is all I'm saying, and I think for the amount of time and effort that he puts in, visually and on track, it looks really bloody good. Like, I can look back, I can look across the track any point around here and essentially take a screenshot. It's so bloody pretty. And I think, honestly, the race version might look even a little bit better than this like groomed one, this pre-done one. Just with all the ruts and the rough added in there, I think it just adds that little extra bit of spice to it. I do like the tracks when they've got a bit more characteristic. And now, I'm not trying to dig anybody out here, but it's just something really, really funny that I did have a little laugh to myself about. I've seen a whole bunch of people messaging, like, or commenting, left messages during the live stream as well, and they'll probably leave a comment to this video for the people that comment after 2 minutes without watching the entire of the video through. The amount of people that have said this is just a copy of Winchester, because they didn't know that the Winchester was based or is massively based in as well. They just thought it was a custom track for MX bikes, and I don't know, I just found it so funny. I was like, well, yeah, there's a reason that it's the same as Winchester. That is because it exists. It is real. It's in the MotoGP series, MotoGP, MXGP series. Getting all sorts of tongue twisted, but I'm really happy. I exceeded my expectations at round one. I think the road really does play into my hands. I do consider myself much more of a slow and steady person now, rather than setting absolute burners all the time. I qualified in 6th, which I was actually quite unhappy with in the moment, because when I set my lap, I thought I was absolutely moving around the track, but I got beaten by about 1.5 seconds, and I had no idea where I would gain that time from. But you know what? When race time came, I was the more consistent rider and managed to get the overall, so big dubski. Thank you, JV, for all the work you've put into this. Thank you very much, OEM team, for all the work you put into the 2-strokes as well. I did feel very bad for them last night, reading through all the people's comments. People are in the... What's the best way of wording this? I don't even think there is a nice way of wording this. People are arseholes. You know, like these guys have spent months of work on these bikes, whether it's modelling or sorting out tyres or trying to update bike physics, bike handling, bike geometries, getting everything as realistic as possible, getting all the liveries sorted so we have replicas of real-life bikes, just for them to be released and for people to do 2 laps of a track and say, these bikes are shit. Like, what sort of IQ is that? Just sit down and spend some bloody time learning them. And I feel like the issue we have is, I know the OEM team are trying to go in the direction of making all the bikes as true to life and realistic as possible, meaning that you can't kind of start at the bottom end of a 2-stroke and expect to move everywhere. You do have to be high in the RPMs and blip in the clutch if you're not. Like, if I was just moving along here in 5th gear, of course I'm not going to move anywhere. Like, it's a 2-stroke, for crying out loud. They are trying to go in the direction of realism, so I think when people hop on it and they might be going a little bit slower than they did before, they instantly see it as a negative thing. But everyone's in the same boat. We are all on slower bikes now. We are all on more realistic bikes. And the other complaint I'm seeing is about sounds, and that there's not been updated sounds on a lot of bikes. Do you understand the professional equipment that you need to go and record real life bike sounds and mix them together to make it in game? It's very, very difficult to do, which is why not everybody does it. So just try and be a little bit more grateful is all I'm saying. Don't just complain about things straight away. Give them a little bit more time. I know I had a little bit of a moan about suspension and whoops and things like that, but I've sat down for even longer, tried to mess with the suspension even more, and whether it was by blind luck or if I did manage to work things out, I've kind of got the hang of it now, so it's all fine, and I'm excited to see what comes in the near future. I'm waiting on those electric bikes too. I did think that they was going to race at the same time, but I'm just guessing that they weren't ready just yet, so that's something else that we get to look forwards to, and I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 updates to the 2 strokes as well, same as they updated the 4 strokes with this release. So let me know your thoughts on all the packs. How are you finding the 450s now that they've been updated? How are you finding all of the 2 strokes so far? And are you going to be joining me in doing any of the MXGP series at all and doing these? Because I was quite surprised. I think that there was probably about 300 or so sign-ups per class for Anaheim 1, and I only saw about 150-ish, maybe to 170-ish or so people run a qualifying lap for MXGP, so not as popular as I would have thought. There's no like max ping limit anymore. I'm not sure if that was scaring anyone away, because I did see a lack of Brazilian and Aussie riders on the day. There's no ping limit. There's going to be an update to MX bikes, whether I'm allowed to say it or not. Really don't give a shit, I'll tell you now anyway. So what's going to happen is if I am in the game and I've got my normal, let's say 40 ping, I'll be okay. If somebody joins the game and they have, let's say 250 ping, let's just use Chicken as an example, being from Australia, you know, normally they'd have dark orange or red writing above their name to signify that they've got high ping. What will happen is when you get next to Chicken, he will actually go invisible and he will no longer have collisions. So you can ride through him if you want to. You will not get affected at all. He will actually get affected. So it's like if anybody plays Sim, the exact same thing there. People will go invisible after they've been on the floor for too long or anything like that, and you can ride through them. They will go flying. You will not be affected. So in a sense, we will probably be able to bully all of the higher ping players now, which absolutely sucks for them. I don't envy them whatsoever. Like, they can't choose where they're from, but I think it just makes it a little bit more, I want to say, not fair, because it's not fair overall, but for the riders who are from the region that the championship is, so EU for example, it gives them the best racing experience possible. Because I love Chicken. Like, I've been on his team since almost day one. Like, speak to him very, very often. Very chill, very nice. Does so much for the community in terms of like series and stuff. I mess about with him in servers now and then, where we try and like dive to each other's inside and take each other out. Every time without fail, that fucker sends me 3 lanes over, and if I try and hit him, he just shakes it off as if it's nothing, and he's been going to the gym every single day of his life, working on nothing but upper body. Like, it's ridiculous trying to get past those higher ping players sometimes. And again, that's nothing against them. They can't help where they're from. That is just that's just the situation that we're in, unfortunately. So there is an update coming whenever Paboso gets around to it. I know he's working on it intermittently at the moment whilst he's on vacation. There is messages in the dev chat as we're going. It's trying to be worked on and fixed, and there's testing being done to see if it all works properly. So yeah, there's no ping limit, so you can race if you want to. You might just be on that receiving end of 1 or 2 takeouts, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I'm going to probably wrap it up there. This video went on way longer than I expected. I'm at bloody 24 minutes of just sitting here grinding out laps, and I've almost run out of fuel. I'm on 0.3 litres, but this TM144, hella fun. Definitely recommend you give it a go if you haven't done so already. Unfortunately, can't race it against the 125s, like I mentioned. It's in the 250 class, but I really don't think it would struggle that much against them. If I'm being completely honest, it is really, really quick and super smooth, super flowy. Definitely try out the track if you haven't already. The track is mucho bueno, and what I like about there being 2 versions is if you are a more intermediate level rider, you can just ride this version that I'm playing now, which is the quali / groomed one. And then if you are more experienced / pro, hate using the pro word, but we'll use it in this situation, you can ride the race version, which is a hell of a lot tougher. That'll do it from me. If you've enjoyed this video, if I could ask you to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, I would greatly appreciate it. As always, have a lovely rest of the day, whatever you beautiful people are up to. I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Peace.